Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving straight into the cultural obsession with being a low-maintenance friend. We're going to explore why constantly dodging friction might actually be the exact reason we're all feeling kinda lonely these days. If you've ever felt the exhaustion of navigating adult friendships, this one's definitely for you.
So let's start with the scenario I bet we all know way too well. You get a text from a good friend, you open it, and immediately feel that familiar, agonizing spike of guilt because, honestly, you just don't have the mental energy to reply right then. So you close it. 6 days go by. Finally, you send that preloaded apology text we all seem to keep in our back pockets. So sorry, work has been absolute chaos. Miss you, let's catch up soon. You know the one, right? Well, in the original piece this explainer is based on, the author's friend, Jess, replied to that exact text in under a minute. She said, "No worries at all, we're both so busy, love that we can go months without talking and pick up right where we left off. It's like the flawless modern friendship script executed by both people in under 90 seconds. On the surface, it feels totally healthy and secure. But the author realized something kind of profound here. Picking up right where we left off sounds super warm and fuzzy until you realize you're leaving off at a single heart emoji. That's literally the entire extent of the friendship. Which brings us to Section 1, the ambient friendship trap.
You see, over the last decade or so, low maintenance has somehow become the ultimate complement for an adult friendship. We've totally swapped out actual weekend plans for late-night memes and Instagram story reactions instead of real phone calls. The author came up with this brilliant term for it, an ambient friendship. It's a relationship that just runs quietly in the background of your life, exactly like a smartphone app you never actually open, but you can't quite bring yourself to delete either. It drains no battery, it asks absolutely nothing of you. And while that sounds great on paper, it's actually the root of the problem.
There is such a stark contrast between these two dynamics. An ambient friendship basically survives on sporadic convenience and surface-level, "Hey, all good here," check-ins. The core philosophy is pretty much whenever you have time. But on the flip side, a load-bearing friendship, that requires deliberate scheduling, showing up physically, and a real willingness to help carry someone's distress. The philosophy there is entirely different. It's not when I have time, it's I am making time for this. What's absolutely fascinating here is how this calls out our modern obsession with therapy speak. We tell ourselves, oh, I'm just respecting their boundaries and their time. But if we're being honest, we're often just co-authoring a system of mutual neglect because, well, it's convenient. I mean, a friend who demands nothing of you is also a friend who can't catch you hiding when you're struggling. We've basically optimized our social lives for pure convenience, and we've mistakenly labeled that result as peace. Now, I want to be clear here. It is so important to acknowledge that some seasons of life are just pure survival mode. You know, having a newborn, going through deep grief, or just a brutal year at work. Taking space during those hard seasons is completely valid, and no one owes anyone a performance when they're drowning. The problem isn't the season itself. The real danger, the trap, is when that temporary season quietly just becomes your permanent system. Moving on to Section 2, the physics of friendship.
So once a temporary season becomes your whole system, the actual physical laws of relationship start working against you. To understand where the warmth in our friendships actually went, we have to look at the hard science of human connection. Back in 1950, an MIT psychologist named Leon Festinger did this study on how friendships formed in a housing complex. They totally assumed people bonded over shared values, right, or compatible personalities. But actually, no. The strongest predictor of friendship was literally just the physical distance between their front doors. People whose apartments were near stairwells or mailboxes had way richer social lives just because they bumped into each other all the time. Festinger called this concept propinquity. It's a brilliant idea. It means nearness and routine and space is actually more important than chemistry.
Think about how this plays out in our own lives. When we were younger, childhood and college just handed us propinquity for absolutely free. We had the school corridors, the shared lockers, riding the same bus home every single day. But adult life? It violently strips all of that natural scaffolding away. And because we don't usually realize this structure is gone, we get tricked into believing that our friendships just naturally fizzled out on their own merits. And rebuilding that scaffolding takes a massive amount of time. A 2018 study out of the University of Kansas did the brutal math on adult closeness. And here it is. It takes roughly 50 hours of time together to make a casual friend, 90 hours to make a real friend, and a towering 200 hours to forge a truly close bond. 200 hours. The problem is, basically nobody in adulthood has 200 spare hours just lying around. We used to rack up those hours ambiently in our 20s, but now, adult closeness has to be deliberately, intentionally manufactured.
Because manufacturing that closeness means actually locking in dates and, let's face it, surviving the guilt of eventually having to cancel. It creates friction. And to dodge that friction, we've all invented this magic word, whenever. As in, hey, whenever things calm down, we'll definitely grab dinner. But let's be real for a second. Adult life never actually calms down, and whenever is not a day of the week. By demanding absolutely nothing from our friends, we politely receive nothing in return, which basically ensures our friendships never formally end. They just get quietly archived.
This leads us right into Section 3, becoming high maintenance on purpose.
Realizing all of this math, the author of our source material decided to try an incredibly brave 2-month experiment. They decided to completely stop praising people for needing nothing and deliberately started making demands. They basically broke the unspoken contract of adulthood, that whole rule of thou shalt not inconvenience thy neighbor. For instance, they texted a friend demanding to come over for takeout on the floor, specifically adding, "Do not clean your apartment." They called friends on the drive home with zero agenda, literally just to hear their voice. They even double-texted without that standard apology for being clingy. They basically just inconvenienced their friends with raw, unpolished presence.
Now, at first, they said it felt awful and super clingy, but then, almost like magic, the emotional walls came tumbling down. That friend eating takeout on the floor, she admitted she'd been crying all afternoon about her job, even though she'd been sending all good texts for 3 straight weeks. A friend on the phone shared a really heavy burden she hadn't mentioned to anyone in months. The biggest takeaway from this whole experiment was that almost no one was actually fine behind their flawlessly polite, low-maintenance text scripts. That script really just exists so neither of you actually has to check.
All right, let's get into Section 4, the maintenance in practice.
Look, every friendship you have right now is drifting toward either ambient noise or load-bearing structure. The drift decides for you unless you decide first. If you want to bring the warmth back, you've got to embrace a little friction and intentionally manufacture that missing propinquity we talked about earlier. And you can actually start doing this today with 3 super practical steps. Number 1, kill the word sometime. Whenever someone says, "Let's catch up soon," answer with a firm day. Say, "How about Tuesday or Thursday?" Number 2, make the pointless call. Just ring a friend with absolutely no agenda. The lack of a reason is the message that you care. And number 3, build a standing fixture into your routine. Say, the first Sunday of every month, same cafe, same 2 people. You're basically building Festinger's MIT stairwell right back into your adult life.
And finally, Section 5, the inconvenience we need.
Let's close the loop on that delayed text exchange with Jess from the very beginning of this explainer. The author realized they had to break the cycle. Armed with this completely new perspective on what true friendship actually requires, they threw out the standard apology template. Instead of the breezy, "So sorry, let's catch up soon" nonsense, they sent this incredibly direct, slightly demanding, yet deeply caring message. Thursday, yours. I'll bring dinner. You don't have to tidy, and you don't have to be interesting.
And how do you think Jess responded? Well, for starters, she didn't reply in a minute with a breezy script this time. She took a whole hour. And when she finally did respond, it was with genuine, beautiful vulnerability. She wrote, "I actually really needed this. It's been a strange month. Please come." She answered 6 days of polite, low-maintenance silence with an actual plan and true emotional honesty.
The truth is, none of us genuinely wants to be the low-maintenance friend. We want to be worth the maintenance. We want someone to just walk right past the fortress of our mad busy schedules and demand our presence anyway. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final provocative thought. Take a look at your calendar this week, not just your inbox. Stop auditioning for the role of the friend who needs absolutely nothing. Instead, ask yourself, whose life can you intentionally inconvenience this week?